All right, welcome back, Greg, to our channel. I guess.
You
Um,
guess. We're the ones managing it.
yeah, I know. So welcome back.
Yeah.
Um
Hey, it's totally time to talk about the Super Bowl and the Super Bowl commercials, and nothing else has happened in sports this week, right?
yep, nope. That's all that's happened is
Yeah.
the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And let's talk about that a little bit. Of course, there were the commercials.
Yeah.
And I only really watched the second half because I was delivering pizza in that first half.
Yeah.
And the second half was pretty boring, I'm going to say. I mean, the 49ers defensive line uh, had some good defensive stops, but uh, they finally let up that crack, and Mahomes was able to finally get the ball out. But as for the commercials, all I really saw, because I didn't really care too much, I was doing other stuff as well. Um, but the only one I really thought was funny was the Bill Murray Groundhog's Day one, um,
Um,
which I thought was kind of funny. There were some good quick cuts going on in there for some technical perspectives. Uh, but there really wasn't anything too exciting.
I mean, you say the second half wasn't that exciting, and the Chiefs only scored 21 points in the fourth quarter to take the whole thing.
Yeah, well,
But
it the last couple minutes were
okay,
good, but
fair.
the rest of it, the 49ers defensive line was just like too good, and it was just cramping the style of the Chiefs all game, and they couldn't get anything going, and that's what was killing them.
Yeah.
And I was texting one of the other drivers who likes the 49ers, and I was telling him, like, it, the only way the Chiefs are going to win this is if the defensive line gives Mahomes like 3 seconds to chuck the ball downfield because he was getting nothing. He was getting pressured. So he finally got that good long 44-yard pass, and he was able to get that. And then it just went on from there. A couple questionable calls here or there, whether that touchdown was really a touchdown.
Yeah.
It's kind of
Yeah.
hard to tell. Personally, I think the whole football should be in the end zone, not like part of it, because it's just I don't know.
Yeah, but as
Um,
going to the commercials, I kind of agree with you. I didn't watch too much of the commercials. Frankly, I'm not really that interested in watching them live. I'd rather watch them after the fact, which I did. But the only two,
After the fact, they're like all displayed like before now.
well, I mean, getting into one of them, the death of Mr. Peanut.
Yeah,
I saw that and I'm like, he's totally coming back to life. And sure enough,
yeah,
he comes or either comes back to life or was never really dead. Is Mr. Peanut the Buddha and just reincarnates? I have so
yeah.
many
So now
questions
it's
after that.
baby peanut, and
But it's not really a baby. It's still the same peanut.
yeah. What I thought was funny, and I haven't seen anyone really comment on it, is the baby speaks like a dolphin. So it's like, up. He said number 11.
I
I'm
was
gonna tell Mr. Krabs.
I was going to say as soon as I heard that, I thought of SpongeBob
Yeah.
in that episode. And then
Um,
the only other really one was the Rick and Morty Pringles commercial. That I found
oh yeah, yeah.
rather
That one I
funny.
saw ahead of
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
I love myself some Rick and
Yeah.
Morty. They're always good.
I was warned about this, but I never took it seriously. Now
Yeah.
we're trapped in a Pringles commercial.
I was surprised though Summer was in it. I would have thought that would be like a Jerry thing instead.
You
But
know the joke. It's
mm.
always Morty that get
No,
mutilated,
no.
turned in, and
I
all
thought
that.
it was gonna be Rick and Jerry, and then Morty or something would have like been like what he was. I would have swapped out Jerry and Summer in the commercial
Yeah.
instead. But oh well. Um, but yeah, so
So yeah, the
then we
Chiefs finally get their Super Bowl after 50 years.
Yep, I'm glad Andy Reid's got
Yeah.
his Super Bowl. He's been long overdue. He's a great coach. I love the mustache. I love seeing pictures every Halloween of little kids dressing up as Andy Reid. Um, so I'm glad the mustache got it. Oh, I remember what my opening liner was.
Oh, you finally remember. So
Yeah,
for
I
anyone who
remembered
does
why.
it, we were talking about witty openings, and Joe said I had one, and I don't remember it. So Joe, what is this opening that you were going to lay down on us?
Well, I'm not gonna actually say it because I remember why I forgot it, and
Oh,
I made myself forget it because you were saying when we were texting back and forth, you're like, "Oh, we should do Hail to the Chiefs,"
oh,
and that made me think. I was like, "Oh, well, Andy Reid's got the mustache." Um, so yeah, but yeah, so that's terrible. I know that. That's why I forgot it. Um, but yeah, so
yeah,
uh, anyway, on to some better news. The Yankees have less competition, but also they've been hurt
yeah.
too.
Yeah, let's break this down one by one. Do you want to start with the news from today or the news from last night?
Let's start with last
So
night.
you want to tackle the big thing right now?
Yeah, let's just jump into that. This has been circulating since last year. The Red Sox had been the last couple of years have been over the luxury tax. They spent big, and now they're like, oh, we want to cut back, and especially since they've hired, drawing a blank on the guy's name from the
Hein
Rays.
Bloom.
Yeah, so he was in charge of Tampa Bay doing all their finances and whatnot and running like a $90 million team to like an average of 92 wins a year the last like 6 years. So uh, he was the right guy to get the Red Sox to cut back on their budget, and boy did they by unloading Mookie Betts and David Price and getting basically just salary cap breathing room in return.
Well, I
Uh,
wouldn't say exactly breathing room.
mm,
They got some interesting pieces. My takeaway is, and we'll get into this before we talk about the individual pieces. I'm
mhm.
surprised with the Dodgers that when we first heard it's all right, it's Betts and Price are going to the Dodgers and Alex Verdugo is going back along with prospects. We're like, okay, that makes sense. Then we heard there's a third team involved, and
Mhm.
it's like, what's going on? Moving? And then said the Red Sox are only getting two guys. So it's like, oh, this is going to be a big thing because if they're only getting two people, that second guy is going to be big. And then there's stuff about a secondary trade on the side. But let's actually break this down. So the three-team trade, which is
Is the Red Sox,
the Red
the
Sox,
Dodgers, and the
yeah, the
Twins.
Twins, the mystery third team. So the Red Sox
Yeah.
are sending Mookie Betts,
Mhm.
David Price, and half
Mhm.
of David Price's contract to the Dodgers, which
Yep.
means that the big thing is that they wanted to move David Price beyond all shadow of doubt and needed to attach him to Betts in order to get him to move.
Mhm.
The Dodgers are sending Alex Verdugo, their young outfielder, could have been in the Rookie of the Year conversation before injuries cut his season halfway through, to Boston. And they're sending starter slash reliever slash starter slash they can't decide Kenta Maeda to the Twins. So the Twins finally get what I
As
think is
a pitcher.
their number two type starter that they've been looking for
Yeah,
all
because
offseason.
Minnesota's been pretty good hitting wise. They've just been sort of lacking the pitching these last couple of
Yeah.
years, and
And they let two of their better pitchers walk to
yeah,
free agency this year. In exchange, the Twins are sending their flamethrower right-hander and oh god, do you know how to pronounce his name? Because I completely forget.
Bruzdar Gratterol. I don't know.
Bruce, hang on while I throw this into the wiki, which usually has a pronunciation. But yeah, young, young right-hander can throw 103 miles an hour out of the bullpen, which is, eeh,
That's pretty good, but you got to watch that elbow.
yeah.
Don't want that TJ
Well, the Twins weren't sure if he was a starter or a reliever. Now that's the Red Sox problem to
decision.
figure.
Yep.
Yeah, but Gratterol, Graterol, however you not want to pronounce it. But he's 20 years old, so the Red Sox kind of got good that they got what they think they could be discount Mookie Betts and potentially the you could say the next Clay Buchholz, the next Roger Clemens, next insert starter right-handed starters grown up by the Red Sox in the last 30 years. 30. Well, Clemens is a little longer than that, but you get the point.
Yeah. So, what do we make of this? So, we have now Cody Bellinger and Betts on the Dodgers. And the Dodgers, I guess, to sort of make some room, are looking to send Jock Peterson out.
Well, it's not just
Um,
Peterson, so let's get to that before we actually break that down. So, because of this deal, there's a second deal that the Dodgers uh, went with their crosstown team Angels. The Angels are set to get Jock Peterson, all-star outfielder, home run derby darling, if I recall.
mhm.
Uh, they're they're also getting Ross Stripling, and who's I'd say like a number 4, number 3 type starter for the Angels. It makes it like a number 2 considering
What they have.
what they have, and they're getting a 19-year-old outfielder Andy Pages, uh, slashed 298, 398 with 19 home runs and about 300 plate appearances in rookie level ball last season. So that could be something. In exchange, the Angels are giving up Luis Rengifo, third baseman. So you read between the lines, Justin Turner's replacement in a year or two.
Mm-hmm.
And as yet unnamed prospect will also go to the Dodgers from the Angels. So I saw this and I saw all the moves, and I'm like, why did the Dodgers basically break up most of their outfield? Because I know they kind of had a small glut, and I expected Verdugo to move because, okay, rookie guy, replace the lack of control you had with Mookie Betts to Verdugo, but to give up Peterson as well, why did you need to move Peterson? Unless you're thinking that you're going to somehow convince Mookie Betts to sign an extension and then you wouldn't be able to
Yeah.
afford Peterson. But the primary trade I'm fine with. It's the secondary trade with the Angels that leaves me a bit confused.
Yeah, I'm not. It's a lot to come into and digest. Jock Peterson seemed to have, when he first came onto the scene, he had some pretty good slash lines, and then I'm still big on average, and he just was not really putting up what I thought he needed to be doing. And I don't know if the Dodgers saw that and they're willing to take some chances and maybe hope and sign another big slugger if Mookie Betts doesn't come back come next year. Um, so that's my take on that perspective of letting Peterson go. As for all the other little pieces, I guess to get things done, you got to include other things. But I don't know how some of these guys think of some of these
Yeah,
things
I'm just
to
surprised it took a
include.
third team to get it done. You would think with
Yeah,
all the guys that the Red Sox were looking at in the Dodgers system, they could have found at least 2 guys instead of having to get the Twins involved, or maybe the or more likely actually is that the Dodgers, there's already some friction between the front office and Kenta Maeda, who wants to be a starter, but every season gets bumped to the bullpen for a brief period of time. He's voiced his concern. He's not happy with it, so they said, "All right, we got to make room for Price. We got to get a third team involved just to clear the room for Price."
yep,
Although I'm kind of surprised they didn't take on the salary and then pass him along to the Angels. That the entire
yeah,
offseason we're saying, oh, the Angels make perfect sense to get David Price. That they missed out on all their frontline starters in free agency. They could have gone after and said, not as great, but a good consolation prize.
yeah. Because David Price has to bounce back. Because last year was just atrocious,
Yeah.
and it was like completely out of line for him.
I wouldn't call
Um,
it atrocious. Away from his norms, yes, but 4.28 is it's his highest full season ERA since all the way back in 2009, but still respectable considering what other starters in their rotation have been. Like certainly better than Nathan Eovaldi was.
Yeah. Valdi was a big flop coming back. I mean, Yankees sort of had that with Hap, um, which I guess
Yeah,
sort of is a
yeah, a
transition
bit of a
segue
segue.
thing.
But one last thing before we go, that speaking of Price, he's the biggest winner about it because now he's in the National League and doesn't have to face the Yankees anymore unless it's the World
Yep.
Series.
Yep. Yeah.
That he doesn't
Yeah.
have to worry about that 10 ERA against them.
Yep. Yeah. Every time he pitches, I bring up the Pedro chant. Who's your daddy?
Yeah.
Da, 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 da,
Except
da.
for 2018 where he finally found
Yeah.
brief success, and then it's like, oh, the time to remember who you are. It's like the Lion King, remember who you are, and it's just like,
Well, that's what happens when you cheat.
yeah, yeah. But anyway,
Um,
getting to the Yankees, and this is kind
So
of
yeah,
breaking
so
news.
J.A. Happ, he did not have that season he had at the tail end of 2018 with the Yankees, uh, but now it was sort of like, why are they holding on to him? What's gonna happen? And it's sort of been revealed that Paxton has a peridiscal cyst,
Yeah.
that he had that removed. He's going to be out 3 to 4 months now.
Yeah, so that
And that's sort of like, all right, I guess we're keeping Hap for now and put him towards the back end of the rotation, see what happens. But better now than at the end of the season.
well,
so.
there's two ways to look at it. One of it is thank God this happened. Well, three ways actually. One is thank God this happened now. That instead of this happening in July or August, and then he's done. That you're not getting back at all. The second is he hasn't taken the field yet. Why is this injury only coming up now in the pre-spring training medical reports? Because that's most likely how this was found.
Yep.
And could this have been a residual effect of his injury last season? And then the third thought is, here we go again. We're not even in spring training, and here's the first of another 30 guys who will hit the disabled list for the Yankees this year.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we've got one,
Yeah.
actually two, because Hicks.
Well, Hicks, we don't count. We knew that
Yeah.
during the season that he wasn't completely healthy.
Mm.
But now with this, the rotation now figures to slot Garrett Cole at for number one. In some order, Luis Severino and Masahiro Tanaka. Happ
Yep.
is number 4, and then Jordan Montgomery, who everyone forgets had a very good 2018.
Yes.
But was it 2018 or 2019? When was he in the rotation?
18, right?
Uh,
17, 18?
No, 2017. 2017.
Yeah, because he was injured in
Yeah.
2018, and then last year he was trying to find his form again.
Yeah. He gets it. Then he's basically a lock for number 5. Devi Garcia might be an option early if things happen. I doubt it. But Paxton now joins Domingo Herman as not being options until they say at least early May. Realistically, considering how it takes a starter to ramp back up, I wouldn't expect him before June 1st.
Yeah.
So that's 2 starters basically done half the year. And I was watching the Michael Kay show, and this is kind of saying how severe it is. That on one hand, Paxton was supposed to be your number 2. He's supposed to build on that great second half run, and basically slot in as the left-handed version of Garrett Cole, the rotation. And now
Yep.
you don't have that for 15 starts. On the other hand, maybe you probably with Paxton probably were going like 13-2, 12-3 in those starts. With slotting everything up, now you're maybe like 9-6 in those however many starts you're missing him.
Mm-hmm.
And in the grand scope of things, on a team that's projected to have 105 wins, in a division where only the Rays really have good expectations on contending as well, that doesn't really mean much for the Yankees.
Yeah.
That this isn't. This is not like in April.
It's not a death sentence.
No, it's not like when Aaron Aaron Judge, Giancarlo Stanton, Gary Sanchez, Didi Gregorius, etc., were all out, and you're wondering who the heck you're going to stack in this in the lineup that has to have Gio Urshela before we knew what he could be. It's batting number fifth. No, this is you still have Cole, you still have Severino, you still have Tanaka. Happ is still a serviceable starter. I expect him to bounce back from last year. You have Montgomery, you have Devi Garcia, you have contingencies. Now, if more injuries happen, they'll happen, and then we'll come back and say this is a disaster in the making. But the panic
Yeah.
button shouldn't be pressed yet, in my
No,
opinion.
not yet. Speaking of Geo, there have been now talks that Andujar is going to be getting reps at first base and left field, but there's also been talks about Chris Bryant on the Cubs and Nolan Arenado on the Rockies, both looking for new homes possibly. Did the Yankees go and package Andujar and/or Urshela and
No, at
make
least
a swing at one of those
not
guys?
yet. At least the idea behind this is that Chris Bryant lost his grievance hearing about his service time. Has 2 years before free agency. Nolan Arenado, uh, much public feud about potential trade situations after the Rockies fell flat last year.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same, there are a few factors working. One, and I've said this all along, see what you've got before you go into that, because yes, the Gio Urshela isn't exactly Chris Bryant or Nolan Arenado, but if he can show that he can keep up that 2025 home run power and 290, 300 average, or even 270, you basically have both a lighter version of both of them that's cheaper,
Yeah.
because Urshela is just about as is not as good as Arenado. No one's as good as Arenado at third
Yeah, no,
base,
he's got
but
gloves.
Urshela is pretty darn good.
Yeah.
On the flip side, you also have to see if he doesn't work out at first base, if he turns back into a 220 hitter, then your second thing is, all right, well, can Andujar play third base? I know it's not the greatest third base in the world by any imagination,
Mm-hmm.
but if he can hit and can at least be passable at third base, then that's your secondary option. Because as much as you complain about the defense at third with Andujar, it's one error given up and then 3 runs hit back in by him, because he's that 2017 he was as clutch
That good.
as can be.
Yeah.
And then the third thing is you got to look at the other situations here. We know that the Cubs are up against a payroll wall, but do they say, all right, we have some guys coming off the books, let's lock up Chris Bryant and build around him, and try to mix and match pieces along the way, kind of like what the Rockies tried to do with Arenado. And for speaking of them, you have to see, do the Rockies bounce back, get in or close to the postseason, and then all ill feelings are removed. Now that's contingent on the Rockies finding their pitching staff again, but it's not out of the ordinary to expect that.
Yeah.
So that's why I say there's a lot of things in the way of this.
Yeah.
At the very least, if they were going to pursue it, it wouldn't be until the trade deadline this year, when they see what they got, the Rockies and Cubs see what they got realistically, and then
Mm-hmm.
if the Rockies fall flat, I could see it, and Andujar and Urshela don't work out, I could see something happening. If
Yep.
the same happens and the Cubs realize that they need to tear down, then I could see that, but I can't see it happening now.
Yeah. With Urshela and Duhar, I mean, Cashman flat out said third base is Urshela's to lose. Looks like Luke Voigt, first base is his to lose. And spring trainings, players have always had hot spring trainings and have fallen flat.
Mark
Uh,
Teixeira.
Mark Teixeira. But there's also one guy who had a really good spring training and just doesn't seem to hold it together. Mr. Who we thought was going to succeed Mark Teixeira, Mr. Greg Bird,
Yeah.
is now a uh, Texan.
A,
So
now a Ranger. Texans are
Texan
completely.
Rangers, Texas Rangers.
Yeah,
No.
yeah. Give some credit to Bird. At least he's not getting a team that completely folded flat in the
Mhm.
postseason. But yeah, that's a good situation for him. The Rangers don't really have a proven option at first base aside from their own first base top prospect that hasn't really worked out in Ronald Guzman. But
Yeah.
considering that's a team that has designs on a postseason run in the West, that could work out for for the Rangers. Uh, Also, the another news, our Mets old friend Wilmer Flores secured a multi-year guaranteed contract with the Giants to
Oh.
kind kind of serve as their utility second baseman of sorts. So so a lot of former New York fan favorites or fan villains near the end in terms of Bird's case finding better pastures elsewhere outside of the city.
To sort of go along to that, I mean, we've touched on football, baseball. I'm gonna skip basketball because that's just too
We
much
talked a
right
lot
now.
about it last time.
Um, but the New York Rangers. I don't know how well you're following hockey. I
Mainly the
haven't.
Devils because that's who my coworkers like to watch.
Yeah. Well, the Devils suck. The Rangers are beating them in the standings.
Yeah,
Not by much, but uh, the New York Rangers have a goalie named Henrik Lundqvist, and he's been their goalie since like 2004, 2005. And he's one of the most winning goalies of all time. He's been the heart and soul of the Rangers for these last 15 years. And my dad's always talked about trading Lundqvist like for the past like 6 years. Sell him now, bring in some good prospects because we had some good backup goalies at the time that we probably could have run with. Um, but it's looking to be the end. I mean, Lundqvist has really only played like 2 or 3 games in the last like 15 games. I mean, the Rangers have brought up a whole circus now full of goalies. So, I mean, right now they have Alexander Georgiev, Henrik Lundqvist, and Igor Shesterkin. And it's there's talks Georgiev might be traded, but maybe Lundqvist moves. But Lundqvist, I think, has like a no movement clause. Uh, so that's going to be hard. And he's been in the Rangers organization for so long now. I don't think he's going to want to be moved. Um, and it's just sort of putting some stress on that. And it's always sad to see such a great player. Lundqvist, no doubt, is going into the Hall of Fame
yeah,
once he retires. Um, but it's always sad to see that player not get a Stanley Cup uh, when they've been so good. I mean, he's made it to the finals, but of course, that's discussion for another time with the loss of Matt Zuccarello. That's postseason. Um, but we have that. But more on some happy news with the NHL is Alexander Ovechkin now has 698 goals,
yeah.
uh, and he's now had 3 hat tricks in his last 6 games, which is pretty impressive. But the all-time goals leading scorer is the great one, Wayne Gretzky, with 894. So that leaves him 196 goals back.
You think he's gonna
Uh,
catch him?
so basically, Ovechkin being 196 goals back, he's basically got to average about 40 goals a season for the next 5 years to get up to like 894. And Ovechkin's 34 years old right now, so 5 years from now puts him at 39. And whether he can sustain 40 goals a season,
Yeah.
considering he now has 11 of those, and the record is 12 seasons with 40 or more goals by Gretzky, of course. Um, Whether he can do that another 5 times, I'm not sure.
And not in the point of his career where players usually decline too.
Yeah, so Father Time isn't always very nice, except maybe with like Randy Johnson,
Yeah,
and some other
yeah.
guys. But
It's not out of the realm of possibility. We've seen players defy logic. I remember the late great who was that Phillies pitcher who pitched until he was like 50?
oh, Jamie
Jamie
Moyer.
Moyer. Why did I forget him? The great Jamie Moyer, Bartolo Colon, uh, Julio Franco, guys who played into their mid late 40s in baseball.
Mm.
You have Tom Brady, who's going to play another season for the Patriots. Not sure how wise
Most
that
likely.
is, yeah.
So yeah, I don't know if Ovechkin's gonna get to 895 and pass Gretzky. That's a lot to handle over the next 5 years. But I mean, if no one wants to mark him up on his famous left circle, I mean, he very well might just get it by the end of this year, because he's been nothing short of amazing. Having the Capitals run it right now is like the best in the league right now, and I mean, the Pittsburgh Penguins are on their tails, but I think it's the Metropolitan's division is the Capitals to lose,
Yeah.
and I don't really see too much of that changing unless if we have some sort of Cinderella team like the Blues were last year,
Yeah.
and just rack through everything and stun everyone. But that's
about it.
my sort of take on that.
Yeah. We're about out of time. I can
Yes.
see we're right at the end. We got less than 2 weeks until pitchers and catchers report.
Yeah, so we'll see what injuries strike then.
Yeah, and we still got to see where Yasiel Puig winds up, if anywhere.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe the Red Sox.
Maybe. Who knows? I just know
That's
it's
for
been a
another
pleasure
time.
today talking to you.
Yes, we'll have to do a reunion sometime soon.
Hopefully.
Well, actually, I'll see you Saturday.
Yes, I will.
But you guys won't.
And hopefully next time we'll remember to put this up on a Tuesday.
Yes.
Don't hold your
Well,
breath.
it's time's relative.
Yeah, time's relative.
All right. I will catch you later. See you Saturday.
Adios.
Peace.